In every research, after collecting and analyzing the data, the researcher has to accomplish the task of drawing inferences or conclusions followed by a report writing. A report, what is that? A report is a clearly structured document in which the writer identifies and examines issues, events, or findings of an investigation. Information obtained from a research or from undertaking a project is delivered in a precise, concise writing style, organized under a set of headings and subheadings, which enable the reader to find the data quickly. Graphs or tables can also be used to present data in the body of a report. Rather than commenting upon or comparing or evaluating ideas as an essay does, a report frequently offers recommendations for action based on the information it has presented. So you can expect a question: what's the difference between an essay and a report? So in an essay, you can comment upon or compare and contrast and evaluate ideas. On the other hand, a report is not mainly meant for that purpose. A report gives information and then gives recommendations as to whether this project is feasible or not. Can it be done? Or is there scope for improvement? So instead of commenting on things, report actually presents the facts and then draws inferences from the facts that are presented by it, or makes recommendations based on those facts that the report has presented. A report is a written presentation of factual information based on an investigation or research. Reports form the basis for solving problems or making decisions, often in the subjects of business or sciences. In simple terms, a report is an interpretation of findings through which the factors that seem to explain what has been observed by the researcher in the course of study can be better understood. By whom? By the reader or the person to whom we are sending the report. The reports also provide a theoretical conception which can serve as a guide for further research. So you get a framework as to what needs to be done. So you can base your next step on this structure or this theoretical framework which the report has provided. So let me sum up. What are the uses of a report? You can expect a question. So what do you write? A report can convey information, analyze an issue or problem, and provide a recommended course of action. Reports help us to plan for the future. What can we do? We have a problem and this is a solution, and what can we do? So we get to plan things. They act as decision making tools. So you have a report with you and then it helps you to take a decision. Yes, what is our next step? So they act as decision making tools. Reports can help us in identifying a problem. They can also help us track the progress of your work. Suppose there's some project happening or you are doing your PhD. So when you write a progress report, you are explaining or you are describing what has happened to your project or how much have you progressed with time. So this can be sent in the course of 6 months or maybe in a year. So reports help us to track the progress of our work. So these are the basic uses of a report. Now, what are the characteristics of an ideal report? An ideal report must have the following characteristics. An ideal report should be clear. It should be concise. It should be accurate and well organized with clear section headings. We do not need to be wordy or use too many words to write a report. It should be clear, it should be concise. You don't have to beat around the bush and then keep on explaining things. it should be accurate. The findings should be accurate. There should not be any error, and the points should be well organized. It should make sense. There should be a proper introduction, then the body, then the conclusion. You should not mix and match ideas. So it will otherwise it will confuse the reader. Presentation is a key element in successful report writing. Formatting, revising, and proofreading are the next important aspects of a good report. Whenever you are writing academic notes or academic material, academic essays, or a report, you always have to think about proofreading it or formatting it, revising it, so that the errors are kept to a minimum. All reports should have an executive summary. What is that? It presents the essential elements of the report. So once you look at the executive summary or the abstract of that report, you must be able to understand these are the areas which have been dealt with in this investigation, and these are the findings, and these are the recommendations. Yes, it is clear. So reports should have an executive summary. Reports should be visually appealing and easy to read. So you can use diagrams, figures, charts, tables, and graphs. So all these can add interest to a report. What are the major parts of a report? You can expect an essay question based on this. A report is designed to lead people through the information in a structured way, but also to enable them to find the information that they want quickly and easily. Reports usually therefore have numbered sections and subsections and a clear and full contents page listing each heading. So in the contents page, each section will have a page number assigned to it. So page numbers are also important in a report. So what is the structure of a report? The report begins with a title page. This should be brief and should explicitly describe the purpose of the report. It will include your name, the date, and for whom the report is written. That's the title page. Then comes the table of contents. This shows the sections of the report. It gives the page numbers assigned to each section. It gives headings, subheadings, and page numbers. Then comes terms of references. What do you mean by terms of references in a report? This phrase refers to the purpose and scope of the report. This includes who requested the report, the main issues or problems to be identified, the reason for undertaking the report, and the due date of the report. So these are the terms of references. So what's the context of writing this report? That is included in the terms of references. Then comes the abstract or the executive summary. It gives the summary of the whole report, outlines the report's purpose, the methodology or what method did you use. Then comes the findings, the main conclusions, and recommendations. This is mainly written in the past tense and is prepared last. So you prepare your abstract or the executive summary once your report is ready. But then it comes after the terms of references. This needs to be short as it is a general review of the report. You don't have to write a long executive summary. The executive summary should be a short summary. After this comes the introduction. The first page of the report needs to have an introduction. You'll have to explain the problem and show the reader why the report is being made. Then comes the body. This is the main section of the report. There should be several sections with each having subtitles. Information is usually arranged in the order of importance. You can write about the findings in this part. This is the body. What was found during the research or the investigation? Give the facts only. No interpretation by the writer of the report needs to be included here. You can give tables, graphs, diagrams, then whatever is relevant to the issues and the problems identified in the terms of reference will be included here. It must be relevant to the issues and problems identified in the terms of reference. We had mentioned about the the issues that are going to be dealt in the terms of reference. So you have to address those issues alone. Arrange this in a logical order with headings and subheadings. You will also be required to analyze, interpret, and evaluate the findings, because just by mentioning the findings, you can't really expect the reader to understand what this means. So you'll have to interpret it for the reader and analyze it for the reader. The discussion draws together different parts of the findings and may refer to the findings of other studies or theories as well. After this comes the conclusion. This is where everything comes together. In the conclusion, you should highlight the central issues or findings. Brief statements of the key findings of the report, because you don't have to explain a lot in this section because you have already done that in the findings section. The ideas should be arranged in such a manner that the major conclusions, they come first. It should relate to the objectives set out in the terms of reference. So the conclusion should address the objectives mentioned in the terms of reference. Otherwise, there is no, if these points do not tally with whatever you have mentioned in the terms of reference, then it's a failure, right? Then you have to follow logically from the facts in the findings or in the discussion section. It must be complete enough for recommendations to be made from the. So once you write a conclusion, it should act as a launching pad for recommendations. So these are our findings, these are our conclusions. And from this, we move on to the next section, recommendations. The opinions of the writer of the report about possible changes or solution to the problems, including who should take action, what should be done, or how it should be done, can be included in this recommendation section. So the writer of the report has found out these things, and then he or she has concluded by writing these are the findings, and then based on this you are recommending certain things. What is the next step of action? Remember that not all reports need a recommendation section. So when you are asked to write a recommendation report, then you need to include this section. Otherwise, if it is not asked for, you don't have to include the recommendation section. Another part of a report is the appendices. Appendices, what is that? Appendices are used to provide any detailed information which your readers may need for reference, but which do not contain key information and which you therefore do not want to include in the body of the report. So you have to present certain tables, certain references, and but then you don't have to include that in the body of the report. So you include that in the appendices. So an appendix can be understood as that section added at the end of the report or a book which contains subsidiary matter relating to the main idea of the document or the report. It contains data which is not very essential to explain your findings, but it supports the analysis. It assists the reader or the user to understand the research work in a better manner, and it provides background material. So appendix can include graphs, tables, charts, statistics, a questionnaire which you have used for a survey. You did some research and then you conducted a survey, and then in order to conduct the survey you had used questionnaires. So you can mention that you can show what are the questionnaires used for your research in that appendix section. Appendices must be relevant and should be numbered so they can be referred to in the main body. So you write the main content of your report in the body section, and then you can include or you can refer to the extra information by mentioning the appendix as appendix 1, appendix 2 in the body. So people can actually turn the pages and then look at the appendix section. Okay, this is what this person has mentioned in the body. So it's basically the supporting information that is not very essential to the body, but then it can supplement the data you have provided. Then comes the work cited or the references section. So this is a list of sources that are used in or are referred to in the report. You have quoted from somebody, or you have used this a particular content from some book or some author. You mentioned all that in the work cited or the reference section. Then comes the glossary of technical terms. A glossary is a list of definitions. So when you're preparing a report, some of the terms might not be familiar to all the readers. So in order to help those people, you can include a glossary. So you define each term. So you use these terms in your report in order to help the people understand what those terms mean. You can include a glossary. So a glossary is a list of definitions. You may include a glossary in a technical report if it uses a number of terms which the readers may not be familiar with. What are the types of reports? Depending on the complexity and depth of content, reports are categorized broadly as informal and formal, just like we do with letters. Whatever the type, all reports provide the information that people in an organization need to solve problems and make decisions. This is a broad classification, formal and informal reports. A formal report is the collection and interpretation of data and information, just like an informal report. But then a formal report tends to be longer. It can start from around 10 pages and can even extend to 100 pages. A formal report is more complex and is used at an official level when compared to an informal report. Informal reports tend to be shorter, although the quantity of pages again will depend upon the purpose for which it is written. Usually informal reports are under 10 pages. So the basic difference is that the length might be a bit shorter than the formal report. Informal reports and formal reports can be divided into two major categories. They can be informational or they can be analytical. So both informal report and formal reports can be of two types. They can provide information which is done through the informational report, or they can analyze certain things. So that can be an analytical report. It is important to keep in mind that both informal and formal reports can fall into these categories. Okay. Now, what is an informational report? An informational report provides a summary of information and data found on a particular topic. One such report is the expense report. This report is a set of information that is used to request allocation of funds. The format is strictly predetermined and it is often completed at the end of a business trip. So you conduct an event or you go for a business trip and then you provide information based on that trip. So that's your expense report. Expense report is an example for an information report. What other examples can come under this category? This category of informational report. You can have an incident report. This describes the events of the workplace to officially document them for legal purposes or for claiming insurance. Some incident has happened and then you provide the information about that incident. You document that properly so that later when there is a legal issue or some kind of an insurance claim, you can actually look at this report and then take necessary action. Another example for an information report is progress report. A progress report is a document that explains in detail how much progress you have made towards the completion of a project. A progress report is a management tool used in all types of organizations that outlines the tasks completed, activities carried out, and targets achieved in your project plan. So whenever we are doing research or any kind of project, there will be a progress report because the stakeholders or the people who are expecting the results, they need to know like how much you have progressed over time. You can't just sit with some particular project for your entire lifetime. Things have to move. So how much have you done? What are the types of progress report? So in a year-long project, there are customarily 3 progress reports. Usually, you can have one at 3 or 6 or 9 months. Depending on the size of the progress report, the length and importance of the project and the recipient, the progress report can take the following forms. You can write a memo. A memo is short for memorandum. It's usually a small piece of written information used in business environments for inter-office communication. You want to inform how much the task has been completed or how much of the project has been completed. in order to inform about the progress of that project, you can use a memo. Its core purpose is to give instructions or serve as a reminder of events, actions, or decisions. The primary motive behind memo writing is to broadcast information to a large group of people. Suppose the principal of the institution wants to communicate about the progress of some task, then the principal can issue memos to the teachers in the institution. This much of the task has been completed. These are the findings of such and such activity. Memo can be issued at an inter-office level. You can also expect a question as to what are the uses of memos. Memos can be used to announce meetings, events, or changes. You can present decisions or directives or proposals or briefings of certain things. Then memos can be used to transmit documents internally. You can also send a progress report in the form of an informal or a formal letter, and also as a formal report to somebody outside the organization. Another type of an informational report is a financial report, or you can also have investigative reports, so on. Then comes the other category, the analytical report. In this report, information is researched and collected. Then the report provides an analysis that leads to one or more recommendations. For example, consider a report that helps a company determine whether to open a new store. So there's a good location here. Should the company open a store in that location? So the report might look at 3 properties with respect to road traffic. Okay, this is a good location. There is plenty of traffic here, so people will come, and there's a good chance of people buying this product. Then it can look about the cost of the land. Is that land buyable? Is it too costly? You can also investigate about the adjoining stores. Is there a store which sells similar products? So these things can be considered, and then you can recommend whether this store is feasible or not. Can you actually launch a store at this location? So this is an analytical report. So what are the types of analytical reports? One, recommendation report, which we have already discussed now. This report makes recommendations to the management and serves as a tool to solve problems. Another example for an analytical report is a feasibility report. So before a company invests its money, they need to know how successful the project is going to be. So a feasibility report is a way to evaluate the practicality and desirability of a project. Is it feasible? Will it work out? Will the funds we invest reach the purpose, or will they be able to reach the goal by investing such money in such a project? Is it feasible? Can you do this? So all these things are considered in a feasibility report. A feasibility report is a testimony that attempts to create some sort of action. So this will persuade the decision makers to choose between the available options. So you provide these many options. If you do this, this is going to happen. So the company can actually think whether this is doable or not. Another term which you will come across while reading about reports is the term stakeholders. Who are they? When writing any professional document, it is important to identify the potential stakeholders. A stakeholder is anyone who will be affected by the contents of what you write. How you choose to word your document, or even the choice to write the document, can become an ethical matter for stakeholders. So when you write something, when you are providing recommendations, what about the stakeholder? The people who are going to be affected by it? That is what is meant by stakeholder. So in a college, in a school, who are the stakeholders? Stakeholders are the students, their parents. They are the people who are going to be affected by the educational system. The stakeholders in a company are the people who are having shares in it. They are going to be affected. The customers are going to be affected. They are all stakeholders in the company. So it is crucial to consider your main objectives before writing something.